Get ready to see the most unusual and rare historical photos. I will be glad to receive your subscription.
This photo shows an authentic prison cell used during the Salem witch trials in 1692. This simple stone room with bare walls, a wooden bench and iron shackles looks more like a gloomy basement than an official prison. But it was in such conditions that dozens of people were held, accused of witchcraft based on far-fetched or hysterical denunciations. Children crossing the street in Britain during World War II, forced to wear gas masks because of the dangerous air conditions. Self-explanatory. Just goes to show that Hitler was actually liked and elected by the people of Germany. It just shows how a democracy can go wrong. A picture shown to children during the Cold War of the layout of a fallout bunker. Japan after the atomic bombs were dropped in World War II. Stalin poses with Nikolai Yezhov, chief of the Soviet secret police. From 1936 onward, Yezhov oversaw the height of the purges. Approximately half of the Soviet political and military establishment were imprisoned. 1950s Wembley Stadium. After the post-war bleakness, Londoners seek solace in the words of Billy Graham, an American evangelist. A fragment from Euclid's Elements, c. 300 BC, widely considered the most influential textbook of all time. A 1919 photograph of a group of African-American actors from the Bruce Stock Company. Many unknown actors that should have been acknowledged. The oldest house in France. It's found in Aveyron. It's 700 years old. It was built in the 13th century and belonged to a Jean. The ground floor is a little smaller than the upstairs because in those times you only paid taxes on occupied land, so everyone built like this, cheating. Well, nobody's perfect. If you haven't been to jail, you've missed out on a great American experience. This is one of the few surviving photographs of the interior of the Titanic, the legendary ocean liner launched in 1912. The picture shows a luxurious first-class cabin that reflects all the ambition and vanity of Edwardian England. The ceilings are decorated with exquisite stucco, the furniture is made in the Louis XVI style, and the space is flooded with natural light coming through long rows of windows. Here, passengers enjoyed morning tea, played chess, read the latest newspapers, and had conversations surrounded by the illusion of complete security and eternal progress. This is an editorial in the Canadian newspaper The Globe and Mail dated July 21, 1969, dedicated to one of the greatest events of the 20th century, the first human step on the surface of the moon. The huge headline "Man on Moon" needs no explanation. It reflects that large-scale historical turning point when humanity first set foot on another astronomical object. Underneath are Neil Armstrong's famous words, "It's very pretty up here, a fine, soft surface." A restrained, technical, and at the same time poetic description of the unearthly reality. The photo, though blurry, shows the moment when Armstrong descends the ramp of the Eagle, the lunar module. This 1852 photograph shows Queen Victoria with her children, but the most unusual thing here is the trace of deliberate interference. Victoria's face, located in the center, was literally scratched from the surface of the daguerreotype. It is believed that it was she who deleted her image, being unhappy with the way she appeared in the picture. Douglas Fairbanks holds up Charlie Chaplin in front of crowds on Wall Street, 1918. They, along with Mary Pickford, were on a nationwide tour to incentivize the public to buy WW1 bonds. The trio were the most untouchably famous film stars in the world at the time. Fairbanks and Chaplin were best friends, and by the time of this photo Fairbanks and Pickford had begun an affair that led to their eventual marriage, and Hollywood's first big celebrity couple. Alice Cooper with Salvador Dali, 1973. This photo captures a rare and graceful moment of two legends of the golden era of Hollywood, Frank Sinatra and Audrey Hepburn in 1956 in Las Vegas, immediately after his performance at the Sands Casino. 1966. Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly backstage at the Oscars, 1956. Both were presenters, Audrey for Best Actor and Grace for Best Picture. This was Grace's last event in Hollywood before she married Prince Rainier the following month. The first and last known photos of all four Beatles together, taken on August 22, 1962 and August 22, 1969, respectively. 23-year-old Frank Sinatra takes a mirror selfie, 1938. He literally looks 13 in that fedora. But don't let that fool you, because here's his first mugshot from the same year. He was actually arrested twice. The smallest and tallest soldiers in the German army in the early parts of World War II. This photo captures the moment when Ferdinand Porsche shows Adolf Hitler a scale model of the future Volkswagen Beetle, then known as the People's Car Volkswagen. The picture was taken in the late 1930s, when the Nazi regime was actively developing infrastructure projects, including the construction of autobahns and programs to motorize the nation. Hitler was personally interested in the idea of an inexpensive car accessible to every German, and commissioned Porsche to create one. This rare photo captures the meeting between Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond novels, and Sean Connery, who for the first time embodied Agent 007 on the screen. The picture was probably taken during the filming of one of the early films in the series, in the early 1960s. Initially, Fleming was skeptical about Connery's candidacy. It seemed to him that the actor lacked aristocracy, sophistication, and British bearing. However, after he saw how Connery revived the image of Bond, he was so impressed that he even introduced Scottish roots into the biography of his literary hero. This historical photograph, taken in 1918, shows the moment when a German messenger dog crosses the front line, jumping over a trench during an attack. These animals played an indispensable role during the First World War. They carried messages, medicines, and even telephone cables in conditions where a human messenger could be too slow or easily visible. The dogs were specially trained to navigate the chaos of battle, not to be afraid of explosions and gunfire, and to accurately find the right soldiers. This photograph, taken in London in 1944, captures the moment of impact of the German V-1 flying bomb, one of the first ever cruise missiles used against civilian targets. An explosion cloud rises above the street next to Drury Lane, in the heart of the capital. Despite the power of what is happening, the people in the frame continue to move, as if the explosion is part of everyday reality. And this is true. Londoners who survived the Blitz have already become accustomed to life under the roar of sirens, the crackle of debris, and the ringing of broken shop windows. The image shows the internal structure of the Soviet Orlan spacesuit, which was used for extravehicular activities of astronauts. This spacesuit does not fit in parts like its American counterparts, but is a rigid rear body with a reclining backrest. The cosmonaut literally enters it from behind and closes the lid like a hatch. Inside, everything is thought out to the smallest detail: oxygen supply systems, carbon dioxide removal, temperature regulation, tightness, and even a supply of life support for several hours. The photo shows the concept of a lazy lawnmower from the 1950s, designed as the ideal of household appliances of the future. This device was a capsule with a transparent dome, a comfortable armchair, and even an air conditioning system so that the owner could take care of the lawn without leaving his comfort zone. The control was carried out by a joystick, and knives were built into the body that cut the grass. The design promised not only a perfect lawn, but also the pleasure of the process itself. This is a rare and significant historical photograph taken in December 1942 at the BBC London studio, where George Orwell, standing on the left, oversaw radio broadcasts for the Eastern Service. This project was part of British cultural diplomacy during the Second World War, an attempt to influence public opinion in India and other countries using the power of literature and language. Among the participants are the great minds of the 20th century. Sitting under Orwell is T.S. Eliot, one of the key English language poets of his time, and next to him is Tambamuttu, a famous Indian poet and publisher who popularized modernist poetry. This rare 1942 color photo captures the workers of Consolidated Aircraft Corporation in Fort Worth, Texas, the people who were behind the mass production of B-24 Liberator bombers during World War II. The picture shows a huge stream of men and women leaving the factory, perhaps for a lunch break or at the end of their shift. These factories worked around the clock, producing one aircraft almost every hour, which was a record at that time. This photo shows the meeting of two iconic women of the 20th century, Indira Gandhi, the future Prime Minister of India, and Jacqueline Kennedy, the First Lady of the United States. The picture was taken during Jacqueline's official visit to India in March 1962, a trip that became not just a diplomatic gesture, but also a cultural exchange, which turned out to be a bright event in international politics at that time. This picture shows a street dentist in Karachi, circa the 1930s and 40s. Such desi dentists were a part of traditional medicine in India and Pakistan. They worked right on the sidewalk using hand tools and minimal equipment. The name of the doctor, T. Shananlal, and a simple advertisement for his services are visible on the sign. In front of the patient is a wooden chair, next to a manual drill, rotated by foot or hand. People sat down, often without anesthesia, in a dusty street setting to pull out a tooth, put on a prosthesis, or just get help in an emergency. The picture shows a rare moment from the visit of US President Richard Nixon to Pakistan in 1969, against the background of the ruins of the ancient city of Taxila. This archaeological site, located near Islamabad, was one of the centers of the ancient Gandhara civilization, the intersection of Indian, Persian, and Greco-Buddhist cultures. The photo shows a fire training cadet at the University of Maryland, one of the few training centers in the United States where future rescuers receive practical training in conditions close to reality. He holds a breathing apparatus, the SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, a vital piece of equipment for working in smoke-filled rooms. The picture shows a group of young women in swimwear from the early 20th century, an example of a radical fashion breakthrough for its time. This photo is a rare moment of genuine national joy. Australia, 1919. The streets of Adelaide are crowded with people, a dense, almost marine mass of heads, flags, and emotions. This is not just a celebration of the end of the First World War, but a farewell to the horror that lasted 4 years, claimed almost 62,000 Australian lives, and touched every family. This is a typical telephone exchange of the early 20th century, the heart of urban communications, powered by the precision and speed of women's hands. Armed with headphones, cables, and well-honed hearing, these female telephone operators manually connected subscribers by inserting plugs into the correct sockets on the switchboard. This photo mosaic is a silent but powerful story about women who, during the First World War, took on jobs that were traditionally considered male. When millions of men went to the front, factories, hospitals, warehouses, telephones, and laboratories could not stand still. Women became welders, mechanics, ambulance drivers, signalers, typists, and chemists. This is a photo of the May Day demonstration in 1919, one of the first mass marches in Europe after the end of the First World War. People tired of war and upheaval took to the streets with white tassels on their shoulders, symbolizing peace, work, and hope. The photo shows a massive wooden barrel mounted on a horse-drawn cart. This is a scene from the days when beer was transported from breweries to taverns, houses, or markets just like that, slowly, with wheels creaking on cobblestone or dusty roads. Such barrels were usually made of oak and held hundreds of liters, and a curved iron handle on the side served as a tap for bottling. The picture shows a shipment of contraband alcohol seized by the police in the 1920s, neatly laid out on a wooden pier next to a patrol boat. The picture shows French sailors relaxing on the deck of a warship during a peaceful visit to a foreign port. This picture shows the interior of the Imperial Palace at the end of the First World War. Rich Rococo furniture, elaborately carved armchair legs, heavy drapes, carved doors and mirrors reflect the last glimmer of Romanov luxury or German aristocracy. The photo shows President of Finland K.J. Ståhlberg at his residence in Helsinki, around the beginning of the 1920s. This is the same palace that previously belonged to the Russian imperial administration, and after Finland gained independence in 1917, it became the official residence of the head of the new state. The man on the left in the picture below was a heavyweight boxing champion named William Perry, a bare-knuckle fighter. Born in 1819, Perry was known as the Tipton Slasher, and one of the few men who managed to make a living through fighting. He stood 6'1" and weighed 190 pounds. The photo shows the participants of the legendary Imperial Transantarctic Expedition of 1914 to 1917 under the leadership of Sir Ernest Shackleton. It's 1916, and people are standing on a frozen expanse, surrounded by ice, completely isolated from the world. Behind them is the ship Endurance, trapped and eventually crushed by the ice of the Weddell Sea. The expedition crashed before reaching the continental crossing of Antarctica, but exactly what happened next went down in history as one of the greatest feats of survival. Shackleton and his men went through impossible conditions, drifting on ice floes, crossing rough seas on a tiny James Caird boat, and climbing the mountains of South Georgia without a map or climbing equipment. Not a single person died, and it was thanks to Shackleton's leadership. This 1910 photograph shows the remains of a huge whale washed up in shallow waters off the coast of Alaska. The huge furrows on its belly indicate that it is probably a humpback or blue whale, representatives of the largest creatures that have ever lived on Earth. This picture was taken in 1947, at the time of one of the largest and most tragic migrations in human history, the partition of British India and the creation of the independent states of India and Pakistan. Millions of people of Muslim faith left India to move to newly formed Pakistan, while Hindus and Sikhs fled en masse from Pakistan to India. This picture was taken in Calcutta in 1930 and captures something extremely unusual even by the standards of British colonial India, a zebra-drawn carriage. Zebras, as you know, are not amenable to training in the same way as horses, and are extremely rarely used in harness. Ventura Boulevard near Van Nuys Boulevard in Sherman Oaks, California, 1927.
Brigitte Bardot, 24, in Saint-Tropez, France, 1958. Distribution of new apartments, 1981, Leningrad. Stalin and the Sword, by George VI. American signalman during technical work on the communication line, Assam City area, India, 1944. A runner named Betty Robinson got into a plane crash, was mistakenly declared dead. I spent 7 weeks in a coma and 2 years learning to walk normally. And 5 years later, I won gold at the Olympic Games. William Patrick Hitler, nephew of Adolf Hitler, in the uniform of the U.S. Navy, 1944-7. His 3 remaining sons allegedly made a pact to never have children in order to end the family tree. Children from the Hitler Youth look with interest at the uniform of a paratrooper, 1941. Speed control by radar detector. Stylish car, stylish shape, stylish radar. Massachusetts, USA, 1950s. Jasper Newton Daniel, the creator of Jack Daniel's whiskey. Cheerleaders from Mississippi with Confederate flags during a football match against Texas at the Cotton Bowl Stadium. Dallas, Texas, January 1st, 1962. Dentistry centuries ago. Buick offers a fashionable solution for removable convertible roofs, 1961. Vegetable garden in the moat of London, the Tower, during the Second World War. A man on a driving test, Hungary, 1980s. Freddie Mercury's parents, Voti and Jair Bulsara, on the wedding day, 1946. Elvis Presley and Muhammad Ali. A nurse on snowshoes, Ramapo Mountains, circa 1925. At the Manhattan Fish Market, New York, 1958. Ladies in Trousers, 1925. The first female cowboys in the United States began to appear only in the middle of the 19th century. Airship over Tamarama Beach, Australia, Sydney, 1908. 4 Indian porters carry a Western tourist in a palanquin, India, 1922. Nylon stockings undergo rigorous testing at Marks & Spencer's Textile Laboratory, 1955. 3 policemen test life jackets in the Port of London, 1930. Women smoke on a sailing boat in Normandy, France, early 20th century. A little boy with a tiny suitcase talks to the driver of a large Southern Railway locomotive before he leaves for Brighton, London, 1924. Café de Flore Terrace, Paris, 1950. The famous cafe was opened in 1887 and became famous for attracting an intellectual audience. Steinhoff Bobsleigh for 2, New Jersey, early 1900s. Claudia Cardinale is a famous Italian actress of the 1960s. The world's first wireless telephone, 1919. The first construction train passes Palisades, 10 Mile Canyon, 1866 to 1869. New tricycle Old Revs Iron Horse, California. The year is 1882. William Harley and Arthur Davidson on their motorcycles. Salvador Dali and Coco Chanel, 1930. A girl demonstrates special glasses with flashlights for reading in the dark, 1932. After Party, an evening at the Paris Salon. Taken in 1860. Mona's Guardian, the Louvre, 1971. Actress Jamie Lee Curtis and her mother, Janet Leigh, 1983. Actress Barbara Streisand during a show rehearsal in 1966. Louis Armstrong gives an impromptu concert at MGM Studios, 1956. Audrey Hepburn with her choir colleagues on the roof of London's Cambridge Theatre, 1949. Brigitte Bardot dancing on a rooftop overlooking Paris, 1952. Fashion designer Christian Dior in his Paris atelier, 1948. Laborie Vallée Charmian was an aerialist and bodybuilder who lived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Pickwick double-decker bus on a railway track, Mexico, 1930s. Grace Kelly is an American actress, Princess of Monaco and Hollywood star. Farmer's wife and daughter on their way to church, West Germany, at the end of the 19th century. A couple riding a bicycle in front of the White House, 1886. Donald Trump in the New York Military Academy Yearbook, 1964. Women in makeup courses, 1940. The surviving passengers of the Titanic, Charlotte Caroline Collier and her daughter. Photographers at the Monaco Grand Prix in 1968. Paid shaving machine, USA, 1940. The first international match at the Wimbledon tournament, 1883. Referee Joey Shackelford, height 1.46 meters, issues a warning to Clive Goddard, height 2.06 meters. England, 1980. The soldier was wearing a special gas mask that allowed him to give commands. It was equipped with a microphone, an amplifier, and a speaker. Hungary, 1939. Penguins listened to a gramophone on a summer day during Ernest Shackleton's second expedition, 1908. Al Capone and his gang, Chicago, 1928. Parking lot, Chicago, 1934. Fawzia Fuad, Queen of Iran and Egypt, 1939. Young Girls in Norway, 1890s. Walt Disney films on the beach in Rio de Janeiro, 1941. Graduates of the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania, who became one of the first licensed female doctors in their home countries, India, Japan, and Syria. An Apache woman with a child, Arizona, 1898. The era of menace, dresses, and cars, the 70s. A small child and a giant whale shark washed up on the coast of Australia, 1965. Nuns in miniskirts, 60s. Fidel Castro holds a newspaper with the headline, "All police officers are on alert in connection with the murder of Castro." 1959. The future founder of Playboy magazine, war correspondent Hugh Hefner, USA, 1945. Betty Brosmer is the first beauty of the 1950s, the cover star and the prototype of pin-up girls. She has won more than 50 beauty contests. Winter in the village of Stowe, Vermont, 1956. Arthur Conan Doyle and His Family, April, 1922. Audrey Hepburn and Fred Astaire, 1957. Brigitte Bardot, 1958. British actress Helen Mirren, London, 1969. French actress Milena de Mongeau, 1960s. Christian Dior collection, 1957.